They say a man's life becomes quieter with age. Mine didn't. It just changed frequency, like a radio left on in an empty barrack, still whispering through the static. That day, the air over Raven Ridge Range felt too clean, too proud. The young snipers were lined up like polished rifles under the heat, and the only thing louder than the shots was their frustration. Every bullet missed the steel at 1,700 yards. The desert wind laughed, the way it always does when arrogance forgets humility. I was sitting behind the firing line, not as an instructor, not even as a guest, just an old man visiting an old habit. The rifle in my hands was older than most of the boys shooting that day. M40. Serial number faded, wood scarred, soul intact. One of the instructors, Gunnery Sergeant Cole Barrett, noticed me watching. He looked like every Marine I'd ever met. Straight back, squared jaw, the kind of pride you could set your watch to. And the same mistake I once had, thinking knowledge makes you untouchable. "Sir," he said, half a sneer, half a warning, "you're on an active firing line. This isn't a museum." I smiled. "Didn't plan on shooting, son. Just watching how the air moves." He frowned. "The air moves? We've got wind meters, sensors, Dopplers. We know exactly how the air moves." "Those tell you numbers, but do you know its mood?" He chuckled, the way young men do before they remember respect. "Mood, huh? You one of those old-timers who licked his finger to read the wind?" "Used to, till the wind started answering back." That got him. He stepped closer. "You some kind of retired marksman?" "Something like that." The truth didn't matter yet. He saw the rifle wrapped in cloth and nodded toward it. "That's yours? Jesus, that's a relic. You even know how to use that anymore?" I unwrapped it carefully, like handling a folded flag. The M40's walnut stock gleamed softly in the sun. Scarred, yes, but proud. He scoffed. "You bring that here for nostalgia?" "Brought it because it still remembers. Most rifles forget faster than people." That's when the younger sniper, a lance corporal named Tyler Brooks, looked up from his spotting scope. There was something sharp in his eyes, something that told me he'd already seen what his sergeant hadn't, that the heat shimmer wasn't uniform, that the mirage was split in layers. But Barrett wasn't done. He stepped forward and, without thinking, placed a hand on my shoulder. "Sir, I need you to leave before someone gets hurt." I looked down at his hand, then up at him. I didn't need to say anything. The silence did it for me. Brooks felt it too. He muttered something about checking his gear and pulled behind the Humvee, pulling out his phone. 30 minutes later, the desert roared. Sirens, engines, authority. Colonel Ramirez himself stepped out of the lead vehicle, the base commander. Barrett snapped to attention instantly, his pulse visible even from where I stood. The colonel didn't say a word. He walked straight toward us, stopped, and saluted. Not Barrett. Me. "Mr. Donovan," he said, voice steady as parade rest. "On behalf of the United States Marine Corps, my apologies for what you've had to experience here." The world went still. The young snipers froze. Barrett's face turned the color of dust. Ramirez turned to his men. "Gentlemen, this is Chief Warrant Officer Frank Donovan, retired. The man whose wind calculations we still use in sniper school. The reason you even have that fancy formula on your screens." Barrett's jaw dropped. The first morning came without fanfare. I arrived before sunrise, when the desert still pretends it can be gentle. The boys stumbled in half awake, coffee steaming in paper cups, boots dragging the sand. They expected drills, checklists, maybe another round of ballistic charts. Instead, they found me sitting on a sandbag, staring at a piece of white rope stretched in a loose coil on the ground. No rifle, no notebook, just that rope and the wind. Barrett frowned. "What's this, sir? A relic from the Stone Age?" "Model 1968, I said. "No batteries required. Watch the shadow." The rope trembled. The sunlight moved. The loop lifted just enough to cast a thin, wavering line. The wind speaks first through shadows. When the light bends before the flag moves, that's when you start reading. They looked confused, of course. Every generation thinks wisdom should come with a digital display. I gave them tasks that had nothing to do with shooting. "Walk 100 yards and come back without touching sand," I said. "Tell me whether the air smells dry or wet. Tell me if it feels heavy or light." Barrett stood behind them, arms crossed. He didn't interfere, not yet. He was still deciding whether to believe I had anything left worth teaching. By noon, sweat had written new names on every shirt. The youngest, Brooks, started seeing things others didn't. The shimmer of heat flowing sideways, the grass bending out of rhythm, the silent twist of mirage layers crossing each other like ghosts of different worlds. When he tried to explain, his voice trembled. "You're seeing it, you just don't trust it yet." That night, I sat by the fire barrel outside the barracks. Barrett came by, quiet. He didn't say much, but he stayed. Sometimes silence is the first apology. Day 2. We started with distance 1,000 yards. I told them, forget the meters, forget the wind speed. The air doesn't care about your numbers. Brooks took the spotting scope. "What do you see?" "2 layers of mirage, sir. Upper one pushing right, lower one drifting left." "And the middle?" He hesitated. "It looks steady." "Looks isn't enough. Check the dry grass at 900. See how it flicks at the tips? That's movement. Weak, but real." He nodded, adjusting his scope. We built what I called the wind map. 3 lines, 3 arrows each, rated gentle, medium, or harsh. It wasn't science. It was translation. When the first bullet rang against steel, someone cheered. I raised a finger. Quiet. Let the echo finish its sentence. They listened, and the sound came back softer, like approval. Barrett watched from the side. For the first time, I saw his jaw unclench. On day 3, I took them to a high ridge above the range. From there, the flags told a different story. "Look," I said. "See that far flag that never moves? It's hiding in the valley's shadow. It's honest, but it speaks only for itself. Your bullet doesn't live there." Barrett squinted. "So which one do we trust?" "None. You trust the conversation between them." They laughed, uneasy. But Brooks caught on first. He saw the faint gray line of dust trailing sideways, thin, steady, like a slow river flowing between invisible banks. He grinned. "That's it, isn't it? The wind you meant." I smiled. "That's one of them. The others are waiting for you to notice." Barrett finally spoke. "And if the instruments and the instinct don't agree?" "Then shoot with instinct, but take responsibility for what happens. You can blame a computer. You can't blame your soul." He didn't argue. He just nodded. A small nod, the kind that admits more than words ever could. The 4th day brought rain, rare for Raven Ridge. Most would have called off training. I didn't. I told them, best classroom there is. Rain shows you how heavy the air is. See how the drops angle differently across the field? Where they shift direction, that's where the current breaks. We shot closer, 800 yards, working in bursts between showers. They cursed, laughed, slipped in the mud.
Barrett laughed too. For the first time, I saw him human, soaked, dirty, and alive. By evening, they no longer feared the weather. They understood it. The rain had stopped being an obstacle. It had become a teacher. On fifth day, we stretched out again. 1,000, 1,500, 1,700. The wind was cooler now, sharper. I handed each man a small compass, not for navigation, but for thought. Wind direction isn't a flat thing. It has altitude. 10 o'clock at 1,000 yards doesn't mean 10 o'clock at 1,500. The river bends. Learn the terrain of the air. I took my position, adjusted holdover by feel, half a mil right, quarter down. Breathe, pause, squeeze. The delay was long, almost meditative. Then, ting, the kind of sound that makes even the skeptical believe in ghosts. I didn't smile. I just whispered, "Now listen. The sound takes longer to return when it's true." They waited, and when the echo came back, everyone exhaled together. The shot, I told them, isn't the goal. It's confirmation that your map was honest. If the echo doesn't return, don't blame the bullet. Blame the lie in your reading. Barrett wrote that down in a notebook he thought I didn't see. The sixth day was the test. Garcia, the newest one, couldn't hit a thing. Every bullet either crawled left or jumped high right. He was furious, trying to push accuracy through anger. Barrett valiantly stepped in. "Move aside," he said, lying down on the mat. He didn't sound superior. He sounded protective. "Brooks, call it. When the mirage shifts high, say shadow. When the lower layer moves, say root." He fired once, shadow. Second shot, root. Third, both. The pattern landed perfect, 3 dings diagonal across the steel. He rolled aside and handed the rifle back to Garcia. "Now you do it. I'll spot, you think. I'll watch."
The range was empty the next morning. Only the wind stayed behind, rolling sand like slow surf, whispering through spent shells half buried in the dirt. I packed my gear, slow and deliberate. Barrett lingered a few yards away, pretending to check targets, but really watching me. He kept glancing at the scar on the M40's stock. When he finally asked, his voice was quiet. "Sir, that mark. From the years, right?" I looked at him for a long time before answering. "Sit down, Sergeant. The lesson's not over." He dropped onto a crate, boots sinking in dust. I set the rifle across my knees. "That scar," I said, "is from 1970, Central Vietnam. We lived in humidity so thick even the dust sweated. Back then I was cocky, too proud, too sure of my math. The wind picked up again, as if remembering with me. That day, the air was a liar. Seemed calm, but it was breathing in 3 directions at once. I was on a ridge with my spotter, Mark Dalton, kid from Texas. He was 20, I was 21. We'd been waiting 6 hours for one man to step out of a hut. When he did, I took the shot, calculated everything, just like the book said. I paused. The bullet struck a tree an inch to his right. He grabbed his radio. Within a minute, we were taking fire from 3 sides. Barrett's eyes widened. We ran. Mark was hit in the shoulder. I dragged him toward the evac point. He was fading fast. Before he passed out, he laughed and said, "You sure the wind only came from 3 directions?" I told him yes. He smiled. He said, "There's always a 4th wind." Then he was gone.
I touched the dent on the rifle. That came from that same tree. A splintered piece flew back and buried itself right here. I never fixed it. It's the only part of that day that stayed honest. Barrett didn't speak. Neither did I. The wind moved through the shooting line again, gentle now, as if offering a salute. "That's why," I said finally, "I tell them instruments calculate, but a man must feel. Brains are for numbers. Conscience is for aim. You miss with your hand, you learn. You miss with your soul, and it stays with you." He swallowed hard. "How did you come back here, after all that?" "You don't come back," I said. "You move forward until you find a place quiet enough to listen again. Teaching. That's how you redeem the shot that went wrong." The next morning, I met Colonel Ramirez in his office. He had papers spread across the desk, forms, maps, performance reports. When I entered, he stood and saluted again, less formally this time. "You said you'd leave something written for the training archives." I handed him 2 envelopes. One thin, charts, notes, airflow diagrams, formulas. The other thicker, handwritten, uneven letters on old paper. He opened the second one first. Inside was a short note. "When you lose the target, stop. Look at what's left in your sight. If you see the sky, you're still alive. If you see conscience, you're still a Marine. If you see nothing, it's time to teach someone else." Ramirez read it twice, then set it down carefully. "We'll call this module Wind Ethics. That's the one they'll remember." I left the base that afternoon. Reporters called. Veterans groups wanted interviews. I declined them all. I went home, brewed black coffee, and sat on the porch. The old rifle rested beside me, oiled and quiet. The flag by the gate snapped lazily in the breeze. Somewhere beyond the trees, thunder grumbled. Not war, just weather.